Good afternoon, everyone. There we go. Just a couple little minor things there to take care of. I'm still sharing this out to people, so we'll actually have an audience. There
Yep,
we go there.
an audience. I don't know what people are expecting, but I had pre-show comments seemed to think it was going to be a firestorm, but
I hope it's an energetic debate, is what I'm hoping.
I don't know if you're going to get energetic today. But
It is not letting me share. So it's up on the Veteran Nation Foundation page, but it's not letting me share it. Some days Facebook just frustrates me. You know what? Maybe it's because it's an event.
seem to have some sort of romance thing happening in the chat. It's kind of creepy.
Daniel, I see you. What's your channel up to now, brother? He had crossed the 300 mark last I saw. And the last thing I gotta do is share Rumble. Well, people are starting to find it. I'm seeing you guys come in here. We're up to 61 already. That's the only downside about the short intro. When I do the coffee for the skipper, I get that long song that plays. For the for this, it's only 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, people should tune in no matter how long the song is, because when I'm on, the content improves.
For a lot of people, they just wait for the notifications. Rumble's always on the notifications, like always on top of it. Like I'll be halfway through the stream before YouTube gives me a notification. But Rumble, boom.
Of your own stream.
Well, I subscribe to myself, so.
Linda Early said she sharded it out for you, so
that is apt, very apt.
I love how Georgie's over here like hashtag Team Skipper. I mean, like, what? I don't know what. I'm so confused. I don't.
That's almost like it's almost like a hashtag, like you're skipping all the team sports and just going for the solo ones.
I love that everybody's like, "Hi, Skipper." I get like 2 high TCs. That's.
And people are still confusing you with the Thomas Collins, who's involved with the whole "what the hell's" thing.
Yeah, well, that just bothers me to no end. Honestly, I don't know. I show up in the chat and people are like, "Hi, TC," and they're like, "I hate that guy," and I'm like,
"You're like, I'm barely even here."
We're waiting for our moderator. He said he was going to be late, so I'll just want everybody to know I was here like 10 minutes early waiting. So
he was. I can attest to that. He was here early,
and I've already put in 4 hours of driving time today, so that's why we had to put it off. There, Native Price. Hey TC, how is your? Is it Native stepping up, helping out?
Yes, people get RTC confused with Busted Biscuit Boy. Yes, and I'm just gonna say my back is already hurting because I have been doing yard work all morning long. I was able to get my oleander moved and replanted in another spot, and now I'm gonna be digging out my apricot because I think that got heat stressed. So I'm gonna move that inside.
You're gonna put your apricot tree in the house?
Yeah, I planted it last year. It's not incredibly huge. It's only like 3 feet. So I'm going to bring it inside, get it back healthy before I put it back out, and where I probably put it in a different place so it gets a little bit more shade.
What's the theme of the debate? I don't think we have a theme. Basically,
TC being wrong.
Skipper's gonna say some stupid shit, and I'm gonna correct him. That's what it's gonna come down to. So
Jesus, cat.
oh, not nice. So Native Pride went from, hey, I hope you how's your day, TC too. This TC we can all put up with. I like put up with. We could tolerate this one.
The other one's pretty bad.
Right, but that still puts me in that we could tolerate this one. We could put up with this one. I don't even know what that.
Well, you tolerate me.
I don't tolerate you. I don't know who Francis Varhal is, but I like him.
He's coming in from your channel.
I didn't even stream this to mine. So while you're at it, you should all head over and subscribe if you haven't subscribed to my channel.
Do you stream anywhere else or just still only on YouTube?
No, I use Rumble too.
Okay.
Oh, Sharon says this TC is the good person. Well, I mean, I'm not a good person, but I'm not. I don't know what a. I don't know. I don't know this busted biscuit individual. From what I've heard, he sounds like a real jerkwad, but yeah. Don't get butthurt over some. I don't.
Who's semantics?
This TC is weird, but in a good way.
This TC has chickens.
I don't. I'm so confused by so many of these comments. Yes, Paul, this TC lives just north of you. And this TC actually grew up in the area that Paul lives in. Most of you don't know that. Paul lives in my old stomping grounds. Probably, 15, 20 miles from the town I graduated from.
So if he's north, what does that make? Or if you're north, what does that make him? Iowa?
Yeah, literally. I mean, I want to know who this Francis is that thinks I'm handsome.
He's the chicken pimp.
Been called a lot of things in my life. Did we give him enough time to show up?
We did. When I talked to him, he was on his way home, and because I had messaged him early this morning, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll come in there." So yeah, which he'll be in here just as soon as he gets things set up. He runs him and another guy, Yogi, who's a Navy vet. I'm pretty sure Chris, I believe he's a Marine vet, if I remember correctly. They do a show called Mill to Vet Podcast, and they're there they are. There's Chris.
Is it true if you have chickens, your conspiracy theories it? What? I don't.
Conspiracy theorist. YouTube's app autocorrect sucks.
Anyway, I hit a milestone today.
What's that?
191.6 for my weight.
Oh, nice.
Considering when I started my weight loss just about 5.5 years ago or so, I was 300 plus. So,
Oh, wow.
so
Congratulations.
I got down to 191.6 today. So when I started, I had a 46 to 48 inch waist. And
Congratulations.
I'm down to less than a 32 inch waist. So my 32 inch waist clothes are loose.
Well,
Well, at least in the waist. I don't know about anywhere else. So
a little bit before I started the show, I hit the highest weight I've ever been. That was about 230, and I'm down to 200 now. A lot of that was health stuff. I couldn't do certain things and put me in a depression.
So now I'm like, told my friend Bree, I'm like, what the heck? Why not go for 180?
Mm-hmm. There you go.
So
You gonna start doing like Spartan runs or half marathons?
no, most of my workout consists of cardio anyway. So now I'm gonna add in some ab work. I'm gonna get some abs for days.
You're gonna start going to the comedy club and laughing?
No, that was stupid. That was
laughing,
stupid.
Laughing is an ab workout. It is.
No, it is, but that was just that. I'm disappointed in you, which is pretty much how I start and end every show.
We have themes here, people.
We do have themes. Most of it is Skipper's bad jokes and me being disappointed in him.
Now, see, this isn't even my bad joke. Rick Friend says he's on a seafood diet.
That's not just bad. That's old. It's just 4 minutes and he'll be on camera.
Okay.
So yeah, if you're not over on my channel, you should be. I have. I'm gonna be hopefully this next week. Need some face work, TC. Your hair even ran away. I don't get it. Is she not feeling well? Because she's not making any sense today.
She was in a mood earlier. I do know that.
A mood.
Yeah, she was.
I'm glad you said it and not me. Your mic went weird. You sound like you're talking in a box.
Hold on, let me make sure it didn't switch. No? Is it still?
No, you turned your head away and it sounded like you were talking in a box. It was really weird.
Okay. Yeah. There we go. This is a focused mic, so if I get outside of the thing. So I put the link. Oh, the chat went away on the thing. Oh, there we go.
I was going to say the chat hasn't been up there yet. So
there we go. My apologies, people.
Harry's asking to see Georgie's feet. I think that's weird and not entirely kosher.
Her little hobbit feet.
She just told me to get bent. She is in a mood.
I added a new soundboard clip for her.
She makes a comment about my hair.
Being friends with midgets. Midgets piss me off.
She makes a comment about my hair and then gets mad at me for telling her people she's not making any sense.
Where's Lacey? Oh, so I've got Lacey over here in the corner.
She's prettier than TC. Okay.
She's actually naked right now because I had to take her shirt off and it needed washed. So I do have a shirt forward that I'm gonna throw on, but when I took the shirt off, Glory was growling. Glory does not like the blow up doll.
In all of my years of doing this, I never thought I would be part of a conversation where we had to talk about a dog not liking a shirtless blow up doll. I don't know. I don't know whether I've reached a pinnacle or
The places you will go.
a valley of the darkest shadows. Honestly, I'm thinking I probably plateaued and I'm now down in the darkest valley I've been in as far as streaming. This is boy. Yeah. Oh yeah, so anyway, I'm hoping next week I'm gonna start attending the trial of that trooper that murdered the gal back in May. Everybody's like, he's not charged with murder. I don't care, he should have been. But he's the one that was doing 84 and had a history of really bad driving incidents, and they kept him on anyway. And then was chasing. I covered this story on my channel and extensively. I'm the one that broke the news actually about his driving record 24 hours before local media and before charges were announced. So
if you go to that, can we simul stream on it? Like, can I? Because I do.
I can't stream it. They don't allow it. So
no, but I mean like updates, like FE come out. Thank you, Dwayne. We appreciate the.
Yeah, we do appreciate that. Should stop by my stream sometime. No.
But yeah, that's an important case. I'm glad that you brought that to our attention. I'm glad that you're keeping up with that because I would love to hear more about it. But
he's trying to get the charges dismissed right now, actually, and I know that's all pretty much as you're heating up to get ready for trial to start. That's the defense is going to throw a lot of stuff out there, which he's entitled to. Like he's entitled to his.
Thank you, Linda.
No, thank you for subbing to my channel, Linda. And I'm not live. I tend to not stream Vet Nation stuff on my channel, not for any other reason than I do want people to watch here. I want people to watch here, and I want people to watch my channel for my content that I do solo. And Skipper knows this. A lot of what I do is a lot different than what we do here.
But I think that's a good thing though, because you do different things, I do different things, and we bring everybody together. I don't care if you ever stream our stuff out; it doesn't bother me.
No, I know, and it's not an issue of not liking what we do here. I just want people to, when we're doing stuff together, I want people to be here watching because of what we. So like today's debate per se is going to be a little different than what we normally do. Normally I just rant at Skipper and other people when I go off on one of my rants, but I never really rant at Skipper either. But
I think today we do have differences in opinion on stuff, and everyone seems to think we're like an echo chamber, but we actually do disagree quite a bit.
Oh, well, I don't know about quite a bit. I mean, I think there are things that we
healthy enough.
I think we have some healthy disagreements on stuff. I am responsible for Skipper moving closer and closer to libertarianism.
I will say yes, you have pushed me further into the libertarian field,
which honestly is my goal with anybody who pays attention and listens. I do want to see more people get away from the echo chamber of what they consider to be conservatism, and I would love to see people who are on the conservative side move more to the paleo-libertarian, paleo-conservative angle, and to stop referring to leftists as liberals. Because leftists, the leftists, the people that you call libtards and liberals in the United States today are not liberals. They are progressive leftists. And I can't despise them either. Liberals are your friends. In fact, the vast majority of people that you meet who you even think of as conservative are actually classical liberals. Much more in keeping with my philosophy than they are with a leftist philosophy. In fact, dare I say, the people who consider themselves to be conservatives today are far more progressive and leftist in their ideology than I've ever dreamed of being. And they're actually far more authoritarian than I've ever dreamed of being. And I went through a very kind of normie con conservative phase in my life where I was like, yeah, legislate everything, you know. So Chris, welcome.
How's it going? Can you guys hear me pretty good?
Look, Chris and I have we have real podcaster presence. We have our mics on screen. Skipper's mic is this little thing oh, there it is.
I can bring mine.
Yeah. We have this podcaster presence. And I have a screen. So he said he was bringing you bringing you on to moderate, and I'm like, did we need a moderator? And then I didn't know we needed a moderator, but I guess we do. And then he said it was just to get you guys' name out there more. So this may help, or you guys may just end up folding up your podcast after this.
Hey, I mean, we have over 130 some odd episodes, so if we can't take a beating, then we're in the wrong business, you know.
I was going to make a smart ass comment about 130 some, and I'm like, I think I hit that last month. No, I'm just
yeah.
If you get a chance to check out their show, their show is very good.
I've seen their stuff. In fact, I thought I was subscribed, but I'm like, no, maybe I'm not.
Yeah, you know, it's really easy. All you gotta do is press record, bring people on, let them share their stories, keep it going straight. What's up, Rick friend? I'm sorry for being late. The skipper did kind of last minute notice me, and I was up till 2:00 because, or actually 3:00 because I had a sleepover at my house with a bunch of young kids and
please
other people's children waking up saying
for the sake of all things Epstein, please clarify that you had children staying the night with your children.
Oh yeah, it was my daughter's birthday party, so
okay, there we go. Thank you.
We had all the festivities.
Because when you lead with, I had a sleepover with a bunch of young kids. That's just I don't know. My chickens do the chicken dance. It's not going to happen. So, and it's worth a lot more than $5 if I do something like that. So
I like money.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to attend as many days of the trial of that state trooper, and I'm going to continue to refer to him as a state trooper because he committed this crime while he was a state trooper. And then they tried to distance themselves from him. So I'm going to try and cover that on starting on the 31st when that works. And then on April 5th, Defend the Guard rally that I'm emceeing again for third or fourth year in a row. Got some heavy hitters coming in for that. That'll be streaming directly to my channel, Skipper. Maybe we can figure out a way to stream that over here as well.
Absolutely.
But I also covered the story of a Kandiyohi County deputy last year. Skipper, I know you remember this, who got in a very serious accident on July 18th in his squad car, and it came out that he was drunk on duty. And somebody who's from that area who has an interest in the corruption in the Kandiyohi County Sheriff's Office paid for all of the data from the Minnesota State Patrol into the investigation, and he sent it all to me. I have it all. I have all the dash cam footage that they were able to gather. I have all the reports and all the pictures, and you guys are not going to believe just how bad this it's so much deeper than just a guy getting drunk on duty. so much worse than that. And I'm going to probably push an episode that I recorded last week with a guy who's running for governor here in Minnesota, push that out until next week and do my first episode of that for tomorrow. So I'll be recording that after whatever it is that we're going to be doing here. I don't know. People seemed really excited about me destroying you today. So I'm going to... Chris, you're a vet. Are you what kind of vet? Are you Brownwater Navy? What are you?
I'm the kind of vet that just likes to chill and, listen to good music. And no, what I'm
I'm asking what branch. You must have been a Marine.
No, man, I was a squid. Did 20 years in the Navy, naval aviation, different types of fixed wing platforms. That's the wings that don't rotate.
I understand those things.
And then I retired in 2023, and I now work on my rental properties, my farm, and I'm also a full-time journalist student as well.
So you're going to school for journalism?
Yes.
That'll really.
And you guys are now up to 443 subscribers. So everyone in the chat, please go to Miltavet. I've already put the link in the chat. Please go and subscribe to them. We'll get them. We're going to try and get them over 500, so then they can partially monetize.
Yeah, let's make that happen, folks.
Yeah, and back to your comment where that will ruin you. I think that it's. I think
it'll ruin you.
The important thing is I started before I went to school, so I come in with my own perspective. And bro, I really like it. I really like being around these younger people that are learning. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just something special about being around a bunch of other people that are also trying to improve themselves. So I really do enjoy that aspect of it.
Jeff, get us some details on that, because
yes, I need to cover that.
Yeah. I'm really excited to hear more about that. I love finding people that are doing things that they shouldn't be doing and then holding them accountable.
Okay, thank you once again for clarifying.
That's one thing I've noticed about a lot of the veteran shows. We know government. We know what government is supposed to do and what it's not supposed to do, and we do not like when it's out of its bounds.
Yes, we know government and how to screw things up. That's what. I mean, tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
I mean, you're not the first person that I just met that said that. So,
hey man, don't get mad when you tell me to do something and I do it. Okay.
Well, I'm not used to, normally I give Skipper directions and he doesn't listen because, Marines.
Hey, speaking of which, I do need to reach out to Yogi. So for those who don't know, Chris's show, Miltavet, he does it with another Navy veteran, Yogi. And Yogi lives down here in Southern California, close to Maine. And I came up with an idea that I want to do. I don't know if you guys would be up for it, but I'll give you the full pitch. I'll just give you the quick thing right here. Homeless veteran shopping spree. That's my idea.
Wait, so we're going to go shopping for homeless veterans?
No, I want to,
because I'll buy a homeless vet like right now. I will.
14th Amendment, it's illegal.
You said.
Why you got to bring the Constitution in here, huh?
Oh, don't worry. I'm going to beat him over the head with it in a second. So. So
I think Yogi would really, really like that. And shout out to Yogi because he was named the president of the student caucus for California. So for all college students, he is the veteran president, which pretty awesome stuff. He's out there making real changes for California.
Dun, 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 dun.
I didn't realize how far south are you in Cali, Skipper?
I'm pretty far south. I mean, like literally, if you look at LA, I'm straight due east. You just got to go through the mountains.
My daughter just got home from Laguna Beach today.
I can get there in about 2 hours.
Yeah,
with
she
no
just got
traffic.
home. She was in Laguna Beach since Wednesday. She's her side hustle. She works with a decor designer, interior designer, and they were doing the Boot Barn headquarters. The CEOs and the president of the board, they were redoing their entire headquarters. So she
Spoiler alert, it's not really a barn.
touche. So anyway, now that we've gotten through all this and we've done all the self-aggrandizing, self-promotion,
And shenanigans.
and
Don't forget that.
and shenanigans, Skipper, the ball's in your court. How do you want to start this off?
Well, the two things that we
Linda Early says, I tuned in for a debate, so where is it? Oh, you just we had to wait for the Navy to show up, of course.
Hey, come on.
That's normally what us Marines do. We're like, where's the ship? It's on its way.
It's on its way. We'll go work out and go sit and clog up the chow lines. Yep.
Look, I don't see
Those
it.
aren't the only lines that the Marines clog up. I don't know who JB is, but anyway. I don't know. If you guys are making references to what the hell stuff, you just should stop now. No, it's all falling on deaf ears here. I have no idea what any of this stuff is.
What the hell, Bobby?
What the hell?
Baba?
I'm just out here just trying to sell propane.
TC said I cannot use the soundboard during the debate.
No, you're not using the soundboard during the debate. That's anyway. So where are we at?
So the two things we tend to have the most agreements on, I've noticed, are Trump
agreements or disagreements?
Disagreements. I'm sorry, Trump and Israel. So we can start with either of those. We do sometimes disagree on, I would say, cop stuff too. Sometimes.
Okay. So what you got to start. You said I made a.
Sure.
You said we should do this. So let's you go ahead. What's your opening salvo?
So this week, one thing that happened with Trump is, and I did a video about this, he signed an executive order that on its face, unconstitutional, completely unconstitutional. However, I had no problem with him signing it. What he did was there were two, law firms that were very involved with Russiagate that he just
that investigated him, and he banned their staff from having access to the White House. And
yes, yeah. They could not come into any government buildings, into any government meetings. They couldn't represent any
at the federal
employees. Couldn't even talk to any federal employees. So I did a video on it, calling it unconstitutional. However, I did see genius behind it.
Sure. I mean, I understood your point. Debate over. Great, thanks.
So that was just one thing that I know we will have disagreements with some of the things that Trump says. I see the genius behind a lot of the stuff that he does. Especially, I look at him as he's learned from his first term, where there were just a lot of mistakes, and I don't see him making those same mistakes this term.
Oh, that'll take us straight into the Israel topic. So
let's go.
No, but here's the issue, Skipper. Like I understand the aspect that you see it as this 5D chess that Trump is playing, which he's not, folks. We keep hearing Trump is playing 5D chess. Like he's not. He's not he's barely playing checkers. Okay, he's barely playing checkers. Trump maybe let's just I'll grant you the point that maybe it was a genius move or not, he violated the Constitution. That makes him an oath breaker. It's wrong. He should be immediately barred from office for that. Immediately. It's a violation of the Constitution. He broke his oath. He should be gone, and all his staff with him for that. And this is coming from a guy who voted for him because I had no other options this year. I voted for Trump out of protest, not out of support. Because one, I knew it wasn't going to affect where I live. Trump wasn't going to win Minnesota just because I, voted for him. That just wasn't going to happen. There's just the rural parts of our state are just too sparsely populated to overtake the metro area. And so I just look at it and go, okay, Skipper, maybe you make a fair point. Maybe this opens it up for them to sue him, and then he can go for discovery. I get that. But you don't get to violate the Constitution when you're playing chess. You just political chess. You don't. And he swore an oath. He swore the same oath that you swore. He swore the same oath that Chris did, that I did multiple times, all of us multiple times. If we all, you both had multiple enlistments, or Skipper, you had enlistments and commissions. Chris, I don't know if you were enlisted your whole time, but I probably shouldn't be pulling on the, I'm pulling the moderator in my side. But what I'm saying is that it's an oath. And if you look, if you're an enlisted person or even a commissioned person in the military, I would argue, and we've all seen it, that a violation of your oath is enough to get you removed from your service.
It can be, yes.
Yeah. And so how much more so the executive, the executive and the commander in chief?
I see what you're saying, but I come at it from, this can be a very good thing for the future of the country. We have, we don't get anywhere by not testing our limitations. We have, even with the Constitution, we have to cross the line sometimes. That's fine when it happens. The Supreme Court will rule, hey, that's unconstitutional. Give us more guidance. But the Supreme Court doesn't like to get involved. They don't like to get involved at all, and they won't answer a question if they feel they don't have to. When presidents do blatantly unconstitutional things, yeah, we have to hold them accountable, sue them, take it to the Supreme Court, and then we can actually have an answer to these constitutional questions. And I'll give you another example. He is now pushing to say that all of Biden's pardons that he did in those final days are all null and void because he wasn't of a sound mind when he was signing them. I believe that's unconstitutional. I think that
even Chris is like grabbing stuff off the walls. He's looking things up over here. He's like, what?
I think it's actually an absolute power of the president. So even if he's not of sound mind, if he's signing pardons, I believe they're enforced. But we've never had pardons challenged in front of the Supreme Court. I think we absolutely should have them challenged in front of the Supreme Court, so we know what the guidance is going forward.
Okay, so here's the question then. First, I patently reject the idea that the government, and you guys know I hate that term, we're the government, the Constitution is the government. So any aspect of the state, because we live in a statist imperial country, where we lost a republic under Lincoln. But the statist imperialistic country that we live in now, they should never, at any level, should they ever be allowed to push the boundaries of the Constitution, ever. And what you're saying about Supreme Court oversight, or even the court oversight, is it relies on a very poor court opinion in Marbury versus Madison, where Marbury versus Madison, the court, SCOTUS, granted itself a power that's not enumerated to it in the Constitution. It granted itself judicial supremacy. And conservatives fall for this all the time. It's not just the left. The conservatives fall for this all the time. They quote Marbury versus Madison. They see the quote from Marbury versus Madison. And Skipper, I know you can say it with me, that any law that is repugnant to the Constitution is no law at all. Great line. It's too bad that they also, in that same decision, granted themselves judicial supremacy, which you can't find in the Constitution. Therefore, a la, it's unconstitutional and it's repugnant. But we've fallen for it. And so this idea that we have to allow them to push the border of the Constitution, maybe even push past that border to have an opportunity to take it to the Supreme Court so the Supreme Court can say to us, yeah, we've deemed that constitutional. I don't give a shit, Supreme Court, what you say. And here's an area where I agree. You have what's his name, Tom Homan, Supreme Court, or the court ordered him, not the Supreme Court in this case, it might have been a lower federal court, ordered them to bring the planes back from Venezuela. And Tom Homan said, bite me. Or as the Wilburns and I like to say, get bent. And here's why. The Supreme Court doesn't have any authority over the federal executive at all. None. So who cares what their decisions are? I don't. What power does the judicial branch have? None. They have no power. They have no enforcement teeth at all. They get the decisions that they get, and then they get the acquiescence that they get based on faulty ruling that they granted themselves, judicial supremacy back in Marbury versus Madison, and then they have to rely on the executive branch to comply in enforcement of their decisions. And all the executive has to say is, for lack of better terminology, I don't want to enforce that, or I do. That's it. And a lot of people were very upset when SCOTUS told Biden, you don't get to forgive college debt. What did Biden say? And we all disagreed with him. I'm going to do it anyway. Here's an example. Donald Trump's administration. Bring the planes back. You have to give them due process. And Tom Homan, as a representative of the executive, says, screw you, get bent. I'm not going to comply. And guess what? It was the right decision because SCOTUS doesn't have any enforcement power. They have no teeth. Constitutionally, they have no teeth.
I agree with you. And one other thing that was also come out of case law is qualified immunity. However, some states have put limitations upon qualified immunity. They've actually passed laws so that there are processes to challenge qualified immunity, but the federal government has not done that. And that is something absolutely our Congress and our state legislatures should be doing. Whenever the judicial branch assumes something in case law, it should be imperative upon the state legislature and the Congress to then pass a law saying, okay, here's how it's actually going to work. It's not going to be defined by these judges in a very vague way. We're going to actually put pen to paper and make it a law.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think qualified immunity is absolutely inherently unconstitutional. But there again, the courts made that decision, and no executive and no legislative body is going to challenge them on that because, how do I want to say this? They're all protected by it. Every single person that works for the state at any level is protected by some form of qualified immunity. That's why a prosecutor can maliciously prosecute you, knowing that you're innocent, knowing that there's exculpatory evidence, and very rarely, if ever, face any repercussions because the courts have all granted judicial and prosecutorial immunity to themselves and everyone else. And the personal insults are flying already. So not between us. I told you we didn't. I'm glad that Chris is here. Chris is very wise. He's sitting there going, He's a
like
great
both.
moderator. I'm going to wait for him to start yelling at each other, and then I'm going to.
No, you guys are doing great, and I think that you guys see both sides of the coin, and I think we could all agree that no matter who was going to take office, there was going to be this kind of disturbance no matter what. And I think that's one thing that we as veterans, we need to show people is that, hey, we may disagree. We may disagree like a lot, but we're going to sit here and have civilized conversations with each other.
Skipper doesn't disagree with me as much as he thinks he does.
And vice versa. TC doesn't disagree with Skipper as much as he think he does.
I know I don't, because I'm moving in my way.
On some things, I'll say yes. On some things, I don't. Like, I know you're very non-interventionalist, and I'm not that way.
So what is your opinion on both of your guys' opinion on the auto pen thing? Because that is kind of one of the things that the media has been running around with that I've been noticing.
I do need to insert. Kevin Sheely has said, "Thank God Skipper's on. Golf is lousy. The paint I was watching has dried." I'm personally offended. I'm personally offended that he included you and thank God Skipper's on. So
he said I'm better than golf. I'll take it. We're on the 16th hole right now. He's got about a 24.
That's more like ASMR. So now we know where ASMR started. It was golf. Golf. Color commenting on golf. Go ahead, Skipper, on the auto pen issue.
Which one is the auto pen?
The one you just brought up, sir.
Yeah, the auto pen is where President Biden used an auto pen to sign all the pardons.
Yeah. Okay.
And, I think that's a pretty good thing. And to talk about, especially us veterans, because we have experience with auto pens. If you had anything to deal with higher end officers, they use auto pen on various different things.
I look at it as no different than Trump saying, I declassified these just by saying it. When it comes to an absolute power of the presidency, I believe that can be done. The problem is we have given the president absolute power over certain things. And if Congress wants to reel that in, we should start considering about reeling that in. Now, I don't think pardons are going to be a part of that, but Congress absolutely gave the president that over all classified material, the president is the ultimate authority, regardless what people have said that, oh no, there's a process. No. Those processes for declassification and classification all come from the president. And it just goes to show how for the last 110 years, we have created this imperial presidency, and we're going to have to start reeling it in. And it's only going to happen, in my opinion, with constitutional amendments.
I personally think that the pardoning and the clemency issue altogether needs to really stop. And because for me, it's become sycophantry. It's whoever sucks up to me the most, or whoever says the stuff I like the most, ultimately ends up getting the benefit of me leaving office. And here's this, or sometimes just staying in office. And so here's this one fell swoop of, and we've seen this with every outgoing president. Let's be frank. It's not just Biden. It's all of them. They've all abused it. I mean, Lincoln, it's kind of become a joke now, but Lincoln pardoned 2 Thanksgiving turkeys once, and he started the ball rolling. And he actually issued if I remember correctly, and so don't quote me, but he actually issued a pardon for his son's toy soldiers because his son caught one of his toy soldiers sleeping on duty, and was going to take it out and execute it. And he issued. I mean, it's nonsensical, but isn't that really kind of a metaphor for what the pardon system has become? And now we're doing preemptive pardons for people like Liz Cheney, like preemptive. You had a sitting Democrat president on his way out of office with this auto pen signs a preemptive pardon for Liz Cheney, exonerating her of anything that might arise. Same for Fauci. And we all know that Fauci's a criminal. What he did was absolutely criminal. And
that's where I think challenging it will be good, because preemptive pardons, I do have a problem with, just in general. I don't think, oh yeah, any crimes you done, you're now forgiven. No, it should be whatever is actually being brought, to charges. That only then should it be pardonable.
And this idea that the auto pen is being used, I think if we knew how much the auto pen was used, even in the signing of legislation, we would be really shocked with every presidency.
There was a question in the chat asking what is an auto pen, and I'm just going to clarify it. It is a machine that literally holds a pen and is designed to sign the signature of whoever you program it. So that is what an auto pen is for people that are out there. The military uses them whenever they are signing a bunch of awards or memorandums and other things. And there's literally, you stick a piece of paper under it, it signs it. There's no like verification other than the person that puts the paper in it, make sure that they have the right piece of paper in there.
It's kind of an assumption that the person whose signature is going on it is aware of what's going on. They're just not like, who's going to sit there and hand crank out all of these signatures. You see it with a lot of autograph books.
Yeah.
Where you order an autograph book. Like one of my favorite voices out there has written Diary of a Psychosis. His name is Tom Woods. And he's a pretty well-known podcaster. And it'd be like going, and I'm pretty sure Tom actually does sign his books when you order a signed book, but it'd be like his book being so popular that you ordered a autograph copy and the publisher just has a auto signature that just goes on it. It's his signature and it's in ink, but that's about as close as it would get. And I'm not accusing, I'm not disparaging Tom. I'm just using that as an example. So I think when it comes to pardons, it needs to be done, in person. It needs to be done by hand, and it should be done in front of witnesses. It really should.
Mm-hmm.
And now the idea of having the Supreme Court oversee it, I personally, with a lot of these pardons, what I really think should happen is what a lot of people don't understand with the executive pardoning is that these people who are pardoned are now not exempt from testifying.
Sure.
So they can be hauled in front of Congress and forced to testify. And if they refuse to testify, they can be held in contempt of Congress, which can land them in jail.
They cannot claim the Fifth Amendment because they've received a pardon. So they cannot self-incriminate.
So if they refuse to testify, they can then, at that point, be held in contempt and forced to pay massive fines or locked up until they do testify. I think we should all hold Congress in contempt most days, but it's a different type of contempt. But so I would not. All pardons should be well thought out, and I think we see that with Ross Ulbricht, who Trump pardoned a few days after he got into office. Ulbricht was very much a very public pardon, and much deserved pardon. And
I might be able to get you an FBI agent that arrested him on your show, by the way. If you're interested.
Sounds like I am, but it sounds like a setup, snitch. Fed.
He's retired Fed.
No, I mean you. Fed. So you skip, Chris, I don't know, did that address what you were?
No, I think you guys did good. What other issues, Skipper, did you want to bring up?
He was bringing up interventionism, so I want to hear what he's thinking.
Okay, yeah, we can get into that. Well, the first thing is I'm going to say about U.S. interventionism. The Ukraine war is done. Like, they have lost. They need to all just start talking peace talks. Everyone who is
They lost
trying to,
before it started, but anyway.
they did, yeah. And it's been for the most part a stalemate for the last year and a half. Yeah, there's been things that have happened, but it's not really making major moves. The people who are trying to keep that going, it offers zero strategic value to the United States. It does not offer the U.S. anything that we didn't already have. So when it doesn't offer us anything, we should not be encouraging the conflict. So that's the first thing I just want to say about interventionism. However, I don't think we should be decidedly non-interventionalist. We shouldn't be going in and trying to build countries. We shouldn't be, like, I'm trying to think of
I
various
may not
conflicts.
even have
But we
to say
should not
anything. You
be
might
in
just talk
Syria.
yourself out of this.
We should not be in Syria. I don't see, and you're talking when Syria kicked off, I was in CENTCOM. I was on the VTCs listening to what was going on. There's nothing that we are going to gain being in Syria. We should be sitting outside, as we were with foreign advisors, advising people who are friendly to us. But that is absolutely something like, if Turkey wants to get involved, we should support them, but that's about it.
So I wonder if our definitions of interventionism are a little closer than you may assume. But mine, and I don't say this to be a smartass, but mine might be a little bit more refined, because we cannot name a single conflict that the United States has been involved in since the end of World War II that is not a direct result of American imperialism and interventionism.
Well,
And
I'll tell you, I still support us having gone into Iraq and Afghanistan. What I
why?
did not support
Well,
going
for
in for
what?
WMDs, well, just because they were oppressive regimes.
Okay, but
And
there are hundreds of oppressive regimes across the
Sure.
globe. Which ones do we pick and choose?
the ones who are not willing to spread freedom through their people and offer the international
So
community.
then we should take out Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia is not oppressive because of the monarchy.
Sure it
That's
is.
the problem.
It's
Oh, no.
it's monarchy. Well, it's monarchy. Saudi Arabia is oppressive because of its religious perspectives, and its imams run its religious perspectives, and then
There's
the
two
monarch
groups.
and then the monarchy does whatever the United States and the religious perspective says.
So
We
there's
pay
two
Saudi
groups.
Arabia to not. We pay the Saudi royals to not behead every single person or chop off the hands of every single person that does something that the religious sect says to do. But if we were going to apply your idea of interventionism to Saudi Arabia the same way that we did to Iraq, then we should be bombing the shit out of Saudi Arabia.
There are two groups in Saudi Arabia who have power. You have the monarchy, and then you have the religious police. And the religious police do report to the imams.
Right.
The Saudi royal family, though, knows they will not stay in power if they get rid of the religious police. The people.
So they
Uh,
allow, the Saudi royals allow inhumane and oppressive tyranny to take place against their own people so that they don't lose their positions of power, and they rely on American tax dollars to back them
they,
up.
if if they went after the religious police, the whole country would collapse.
It would be
And it would
destabilized.
completely destabilize, and it would probably be a religious oligarchy.
What it basically is already.
Not with the royal family. The royal family's very moderate.
They're very moderate because we pay them to be moderate. We pay them billions of dollars a year.
So back on to the interventionism topic. Let's start shifting back into there and not slicing apart Saudi Arabia.
No pun intended.
What is it? The interventionism, and all three of us have played a part during our service and being the sheriff. Do you guys think that we should be the sheriff of the world?
No, not necessarily. However, I believe with Teddy Roosevelt, we should speak softly and carry a big stick. We definitely are a tool for two things. One, to keep the world peaceful. And the second thing is also to make sure that the
We keep the
U.S.
world peaceful.
In the past, we have done that.
Since
We
when?
don't have the greatest track record. Well,
Since when?
so as you and I have both talked about, the Israel wanted us involved in the 6-Day War, and we said, yeah, we're not going to be a part of that.
And then they bombed the shit out of the USS Liberty.
Well, yes, to try to draw us in.
Wonderful allies.
But that's just one example. We don't get involved in every conflict, and we shouldn't be involved.
We literally fought the war, the first and second Gulf War, at the behest of Israel. The documentation's there. The documentation's there. That it was Israel pushing. Let's Wesley Clark. The 5 countries. We've all heard that clip, right? The 5 countries clip. You've not heard that?
I don't recall it. I may have heard it.
So right after September 11th, Wesley Clark recites this account of walking through the Pentagon and having one of his former inferior generals approach him and say, General Clark, and I'm paraphrasing him, like, we're going to war with Iraq. And in the ensuing conversation, this guy reveals to Clark that the Bush-Cheney administration had a list of 5 countries that they wanted taken out and destabilized and changed to democracy.
Mm-hmm.
Iraq, Iran, Syria. Oh, gosh, I can't even remember the other 2 off the top of my head. But there were 5 countries, or in 5 countries in 7 years, or 7 countries in 5 years, or something like that. Now it's taken a lot longer, but we've gotten everything that they wanted, and there was no reason for it. Syria, we destabilized Syria. We actually. We, the United States, not we the people, but we, the United States, the State Department, the deep state, and administrations, literally paid and funded and equipped ISIS in Iraq. This multi-headed beast that we created by destabilizing Iraq. We then paid them to come into Syria, just like we did in Libya. That's one of the others. Libya. We funded their attack. We funded the destabilization and the attack and the revolution in Libya, and we did the same thing in Syria. We created that beast. We created that monster. We called them moderate rebels when they took out Syria and Libya, but we called them the most terrible terrorists in the history of the world when we were fighting them in Iraq.
Is it the 7 countries in 5 years?
Yeah, 7 countries in 5 years. I'm sorry, I got it.
Libya, we should absolutely Libya and Syria. We absolutely have no business in either country. Libya
Just so
is
that
actually
way, just so that way everybody knows which countries were talked about and what TC is referring to. It is Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran.
Now, Libya was actually improved under Gaddafi. The problem with Gaddafi was he was a committed terrorist. He was the one who funded the bombing over Lockerbie, Scotland. Uh, we didn't see that type of stuff out of Syria. Like, we should only be supporting Jordan and Turkey if they're going to go into Syria. And when I say support, I mean primarily training and advising. That's it. Much like how we did with Pakistan and India. As
Name.
for
Go ahead. Sorry.
as for the first Gulf War, absolutely justified. Doesn't matter what Israel wanted. I'm sure Israel wants us involved in every war, but that's not why we did it. We did not cause Saddam Hussein to invade Kuwait, and Kuwait is a very moderate nation. That was
No,
just an
but
ability.
but we fell for lies about what Iraq was doing to people in Kuwait. We fell for lies. They're killing babies in hospitals. They're throwing them out of incubators. They're smashing their heads against the walls. Never happened. Never happened. Never happened.
For
But
me,
they
that
lied us
that
into that
doesn't
war.
matter. It was they were trying to corner OPEC. They were trying to gain. Iraq was trying to take control of OPEC, is what they were doing.
But why should Iraq be prohibited from controlling OPEC when the United States controls OPEC? We only control OPEC because we want the petrodollar to remain the currency. We make demands on OPEC because of the petrodollar. Because it's the
We
only
don't
thing that
control
gives
OPEC, but we do
we
negotiate.
control OPEC. We control OPEC because we tell people, look, if you're going to mess around with the petrodollar, we're going to take you out. That's so our interventionism isn't just going into countries and providing democracy. It's running things behind the scenes that cause the conflict, like Ukraine. We caused the war in Ukraine. We provoked Russia into attacking Ukraine.
Oh, totally agree with that. Yes.
Right?
And when you say we, you mean America, correct, TC?
The United States regimes,
We
Republicans and
tried to bring
Democrats, the war
Ukraine
hawks.
into NATO, which we had promised for 20 some years we were not going to bring them into NATO. And as soon as it was announced that we were going to bring them into NATO, that's when Russia went and took over the Crimea and started getting more and more aggressive.
They got a little handsy like a teenager at prom.
I just want to make sure that it's clear. You guys are both saying that we, America, or we as NATO?
I would say both.
NATO and America are the same thing.
I mean, we fund NATO.
Right. That we.
NATO also funds us, though, too. That's NATO is a scheme to keep American workers working.
You mean the military-industrial complex?
Well, yeah, but it's even more so than that. There's a reason why there's NATO standards. I don't know if you're familiar with the Gobel. It's pretty much a Kalashnikov rifle that's 5.56 that Israel uses, and they only developed it so they could use NATO rounds.
Well, right. I mean, we had to, right, so that we could sell our NATO-approved rounds to all the NATO countries, so that the military-industrial complex could keep producing massive amounts of ammunition that we can't buy, but other countries can.
I agree with what Jeff Grady just posted as well.
I do.
That is Hezbollah.
Hezbollah, yeah. That Lebanon attack. Have you guys read the Jack Carr book that he just released on Lebanon?
No.
It's a solid read. It boils down the whole entire Lebanon bombing.
I
will also tell people this: Hamas is Hezbollah. They are the same.
Sure. I don't disagree with that.
Well, let's find something that you do disagree on.
Well, I still think that our perspective on what interventionism is different in that and Skipper, correct me if I'm wrong, but you see interventionism as like when we send military force into an area in the humanitarian good of the civilian population in that area to free them from an oppressive, tyrannical, abusive government or oligarchy or monarchy or despot or whatnot. And I say that our interventionism starts way before that by having our fingers in the running of countries and overthrowing governments through color revolutions, which every single color revolution that has happened in the Western world and even in the Middle East and into the Asian theater in South America, for the most part, has happened at the hands of American interventionism working behind the scenes.
If Western world, I would agree with you, but you went very broad, and I'll tell you, Russia and China both do the same thing, but way worse than what we do.
Right, but I don't live in Russia or China.
I
And what
agree with you.
and what aboutism? Go ahead.
I'm just saying, pretty much all the three operate as a mafia, essentially, when it comes to the rest of the world, and we're the nicer of the three.
But are we?
I
Are
mean,
we?
I think that's a subjective opinion. To the Russians, they're friendly to themselves. To the Chinese, they're friendlier to Chinese. And if you go by population, the Chinese overwhelm us in population, so they probably think that they're the nicest, and there's more of them. So
I
they
mean,
have the
our
majority.
own Central Intelligence Agency had to coin the phrase blowback because of our interventionism in other countries' policies, domestic policies.
So,
Ron Paul, go ahead.
So interventionism, diplomacy, informational, military, and economic. You guys are probably familiar with the DIME acronym because you guys were in the military. But that is
I was
forms
in the military a long time ago. We were still using pennies.
It's a lot more words to spell an acronym with pennies. No, but those are the ways that we do interventionism. So I'll cut back over to you, TC.
I do want to address James. He's saying it is putting NGOs in places where the special services done dirty work. Here's the thing: the NGOs are the CIA. So the U.S. aid, CIA. There is no difference between the two of them. They are. It's just a different pot of money, and that's why U.S. aid being essentially audited as an organization, I think, is a great thing, because there's a lot of stuff that is just payoffs used by the CIA to do things by ways that they're not allowed to do.
I'm gonna play off one. The CIA coined the phrase blowback because of their warning. I am not ranting, Georgie. I have given Skipper plenty. Skipper, have I not allowed
I've
you
had
to talk?
my chance to talk. I don't feel like
the CIA coined the phrase blowback to warn our politicians, the legislative and the executive branches, of what was going to happen due to what they were doing. And I'm paraphrasing a much longer documentation of, we have to expect blowback for our intervention in the world. It's going to cause blowback. Ron Paul said, as George Bush is out there ranting and raving about how Muslim terrorists attacked the United States on September 11, 2001 because they hate our freedom, patently and demonstrably a lie. That is not why Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda attacked us. They attacked us because of our continued occupation of places like Saudi Arabia and Iraq. Yes, yes, absolutely. And Ron Paul even said that. Huh?
That's part of it.
They look, if they were going to attack
there's a reason why he attacked, why Osama bin Laden attacked the World Trade Center twice, and everyone forgets about the 1993 bombing.
I haven't
because
forgotten about it.
he resented that the U.S. was essentially, especially New York City and the World Trade Center, represented the center of the U.S. economy, which is our greatest strength. We are the world's leading economy, and he resented that.
He didn't resent the economy and the strength of the economy. He resented that the strength of our economy allows us to be the bully. It allows us to be the biggest boy, the really at the time the sole superpower on the face of the earth. Russia and China don't have the capabilities that we have. Russia might have more nukes, but nobody is going to sit back and listen to Russians saber rattle when it comes to nukes. They're just not. The United States can walk into any country right now and demand you need to denuclearify, to coin a Bush type phrase. Strategery.
The saber's rattling because of the rust on it.
That and they probably didn't have the money to build the right size.
The fasteners weren't the correct one.
I'll tell you, going back to Ukraine, here's why trying to bring Ukraine into NATO was a mistake. It is 100% helped Russia completely across the board. Russia was a major country that had not been directly involved in any conflict, real conflict, since probably Serbia. And in Serbia, I think they sent 3 battalions, so not a lot. And what the Ukraine conflict has allowed them to do is recognize that their military doctrine was flawed in many different areas, and they are now not just filling those gaps, they are now writing anti-drone doctrine in Russia that no one else, not even the US, has been able to have any good case studies on. Hopefully we learn by sitting on the outside, but you never get those lessons unless you're involved.
Skipper, what have you been eating? Your tongue is super red, by the way.
It's my fruit punch.
I'm like,
the fact that you notice that makes me want to hide my tongue.
I've been using new whitener on my teeth, though.
I've spent a very long time in a career field where
maybe that's what
I had to be observational.
So you guys nailed military. You guys just talked about economically. What about informationally? What do you think is the dominant force in the world right now? Informationally.
Well, if you listen to all the people that want TikTok banned, it's China. We got to ban TikTok because China is killing us. But anyway, I'm sorry.
I think the leader is China. I don't think they're ahead by much, but China long time ago realized the internet and the information is a new avenue for military intelligence and counterintelligence, and they've been incredibly effective, way more than us. They have a lot more government resources into that, and every time we start doing more and more business with China, they just get more and more information. So I believe China is ahead. I don't think they're far ahead. Now, what will, if it turns into a conflict, what will that look like? I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, an information war. It used to be whoever could get the most data out in an election, right? Information wars now. I don't think we're even close to being on the cusp of understanding what that's going to look like going forward. One of the reasons that people wanted the Restrict Act, and I know Skipper and I both opposed the Restrict Act. We talked about it. The idea of the United States legislative bodies passing a law and then requiring the executive branch to enforce it, where you're being told you can't use for certain things, you can't use a VPN. And if you get caught using a VPN, that you could face up to 20 years in prison and whatnot. None of us swore an oath to defend that. And I'm saying all of that to lead up to ultimately that was a move to try and kick TikTok out of the US or cause China through ByteDance, which is not ByteDance is not owned by China. It's owned by a foreign national and by the employees in the United States, by the way. So TikTok is actually a employee-owned business. People who work for TikTok in the United States actually make money off of it. But trying to force the divestment of China from TikTok was ultimately to shut down TikTok, and only became a very passionate movement for the conservatives in the US. There again, folks, there's your conservatives, like libs of TikTok. She built her following by picking on leftist blue-haired jigglypuffs on TikTok. She built her entire, if it wasn't for TikTok, libs of TikTok wouldn't exist. She went out and started a campaign for the removal of TikTok because TikTok was swaying the opinions of lower middle age and younger people on the Israel-Palestine conflict. People were saying, we're seeing things that our media, our mainstream media, will not tell us about what's happening in the Gaza Strip. And as soon as that started to happen, they're like, oh, we got to get TikTok out of the country, because TikTok wasn't silencing that. They weren't oppressing it in the algorithm. And so that's what I think is where our biggest, how do I want to say this? Our biggest information war is going to happen right here domestically. And then we're going to see maybe some other, foreign information aspects come into play with, does Russia really have a disordinate amount of influence over alternative media in the U.S.? They tried to take out the owners of Telegram. They in fact, they actually did and throw him in prison for a while, trying to shut down Telegram. And then there was another one I can't think of, but they shut down Gab.
WhatsApp is essentially owned by Israel. Telegram is Chinese, and Signal is CIA.
Well, Telegram was purportedly owned by Russia.
It could be a joint between Russia and China, but I know China has a lot of the stuff behind Telegram, a lot of the code.
It could be.
Do you guys believe that it should be unmoderated communication across the world?
Well, I don't believe completely unmoderated. Like, I don't want to see child porn type of thing. But I liked what 4chan and 8chan had kind of done, where we'll do very little moderation beyond these things that are so crazy. Everything else can go.
Yeah. So the idea of moderation, the struggle that I have is not in what's moderated, but who's making the decision on what's moderated.
Mhm.
And so here in the U.S., and you guys know this, but I'm just going to state the obvious. Every 4 years, we potentially have a change in administration, depending on who wins an election. And it can be sometimes every 2 years, depending on, general elections and how the House turns and the Senate turns, and, and then the presidential year comes around and all of that. So these changes in administration are good, but they're also destabilizing in the sense of whoever takes power becomes the authoritarian. And that's been one of my biggest critiques of the, I don't refer to, Skipper. He knows when I use this term, I'm not referring to him. But there's this Trump block, or these Trump bots who are like, they were so opposed to everything that happened during the COVID regime stuff. Even going so far as to excuse Trump for his hand in the COVID lockdowns and in the creation of the jab. I mean, they flat out excused all of that and blamed all the leftists. And as soon as he got into power again, they're like, everybody act like oh my gosh, everything's going to be better. Well, that's because their guy is in power. So now they have their authoritarian in power as opposed to the other side's authoritarian. And I think that's what we deal with in the election cycles are the changing of authoritarians. It's just we're exchanging your authoritarian for my authoritarian. And that goes back to the, Skipper and I both agree with the imperial presidency. The president has taken upon himself, going as far back as Lincoln, way too much power. We've centralized instead of decentralized the way our founders wanted. They wanted a very weak federal state. That's what the Federalists ultimately were in the beginning. Very anti-strong central government. And ever since Lincoln, what we have had is this paving of the way for a very strong centralized government so that now every 4 years or every few years, we can see somebody come in and say, oh, well, I'm changing it all. And so now I'm going to say what's going to be moderated and what's not going to be moderated. And to quote Obama, even if Congress won't do what I want them to do, and I'm paraphrasing by quote, I'll just use the power of the pen to get it done. And start issuing executive orders.
Auto
Well,
pen.
yeah, auto pen, right? But the problem with that is when it's the person you don't like, you hate it. But when it's your guy, you love it. So I love when my guy issues all sorts of executive orders, whether they're constitutional or not. I love it because it's 5D chess or it's getting me what I want. And to me, that's a dangerous trend. And I think that's, that's where you run into the question about what is good moderation versus bad. I think left to our own devices, platforms and the public will do a far better job of moderating than any level of state authoritarianism telling us what we can and cannot say. Because a person who's into abusive material of children is going to find a way to find that around any moderation. But people who run across it, who are against it, are going to report it. They're going to moderate that content themselves, or they're just not going to go to places deep down in the dark web where it's forced to exist. So that to me is like, I have a very hard time saying, yes, we need this as a set of rules for moderation, because we all agree that child abuse is wrong. But the next guy may come along and say, well, I don't like porn at all, so I'm going to ban all porn. Who's going to disagree with me? Porn is, well, conservative Christians might come out and say, which I happen to be one in my Christianity. It doesn't always show, but my Christianity tends to run to the very conservative Reformed perspective. I'm going to go, yeah, porn is bad. People shouldn't be watching porn. It's a form of adultery. But should I be able to force that on someone else? Like Skipper, who likes his porn. I mean, the guy's got a blow-up doll in the background if you watch most of his videos. But that's just
don't you dare talk about Lacey that way.
But there's a really good example. We all know why Lacey exists. But what if somebody saw that and said, I don't think that should be on Skipper's channel. I want that shut down. And then they find a sympathetic voice to go in and say, nope, you're right. Yank his channel. And that's what we saw during COVID. Even under Trump, we saw a heavy-handed state authoritarianism come in and, start shutting people's channels down because they weren't saying approved things, because somebody said some moderation and then told platforms like former Twitter and Facebook and others, you can allow this or you can't allow that, and it'd be in your best interest to make sure you shut down this. And then what platforms did they go after? They went after Rumble. They went after Telegram. Any places that allowed dissenting voices. So Who gets to make those decisions? Man, I
I'm
don't know.
pretty sure he has Lacey for the carpool lane.
It does a lot. She does allow me to drive, and
So
When she runs out of air, it makes it look like you're hitting remote.
I do want to point out we're at an hour and 30 minutes.
I'm having fun. That's
Just wanted to point it out.
So speaking about the suppression, did you guys happen to hear Mark Zuckerberg on Joe Rogan's show where he was talking about how the administration was forcing him by threat to suppress satire and things of that nature? What is your guys' opinion on that?
You know, for me, one thing I've noticed is that the left, the crazy lefties, one thing that they hate the most is being mocked. They cannot deal. We jokingly say the left can't meme, and that's really what we're saying is they can't joke around about stuff. The Christian right is the same way, but the Christian right is a much smaller part of the right. So I think that's where it comes out of. But yeah, you get people on both sides who do want to just silence. Uh, Thankfully, I don't see us on that track. I think we're moving more towards freedom currently.
interesting.
Yeah, I think we are.
So definitionally, then you'd have to agree that Trump is also an authoritarian when it comes to silencing free speech.
On what examples?
Adopting anti-Semitism laws.
Have there been any new ones? I didn't know there.
Well, his first administration, he signed executive orders into restricting anti-Semitism, and he's continued to push that to the point now where he gets to determine what is or is not an illegal protest without actually giving a definition of what an illegal protest is. And he is now threatening to jail people for taking part in the illegal protests and deporting people who are here legally for taking part in those illegal protests.
So
Khalil Muhammad is a perfect example.
So that only applies to immigrants, and
No, it
again,
doesn't. No, the executive order flat out said that if universities do not shut down illegal protests, those who get caught taking part will either be deported or imprisoned.
Have you read the Department of Homeland Security citation that they actually presented? Muhammad, I can't pronounce his first name correctly. Khalil. So I actually went through all the findings. You could go online and you could find all the Department of Justice's findings, all the appeals. Sadie is his lawyer. I read. I spent probably hours diving into this.
Yeah, how'd that feel?
I mean, it's no worse than trying to figure out something for an aircraft. Trying
it's
to
no worse than listening
schematic.
to Skipper and I.
But I want to say this, that the reason why he was arrested was not because of free speech. It was something he did, and they used the 5-year rule on him because he was not a citizen when he first did things.
He's still green carded. Yeah,
but still they have policies and rules and regulations, and he violated it. And a lot of people don't know that because you would have to go into the discovery, and the media purposely doesn't portray the entire truth.
Look, I've looked into a lot of this, and what this ultimately comes down to is they went back those 5 years because Khalil Muhammad said some really unpopular things, and they couldn't get him for saying the unpopular things, so they had to go nitpick the shit out of Khalil Muhammad from 5 years ago before all of this.
And I think it's a lesson for everybody.
Khalil Muhammad is still an immigrant. Yeah, he does have legal status, but he's not a citizen. So they can bring. He has a right to a hearing, which he did. He did have a right.
Is free speech an American right, or is it a natural right?
It's any time that anybody that comes into America that's inside of our borders is covered underneath the constitutional rights that are bestowed upon everybody. Yeah. But There is.
Right, but that's my point. Is free speech a natural right, or is it a constitutional right?
Well, he has the right to say whatever, but he can still be deported for it. And that's the thing.
Okay. So as long as you say what the regime wants you to say, you don't have anything to fear.
No.
I mean, if
no,
I
Yes,
walked,
yes. As
so
long
if
as
you
you
walk-
say
don't
whatever
have the
the
right to live here.
So if you walk into a McDonald's restaurant and you start telling everybody that this restaurant sucks, I mean, we could probably all agree with that.
There's a complete, no offense, Chris. That's apples and oranges. A restaurant is not the United States government. It is not your local government. It's not the state government. It is a private entity that can restrict whatever the hell they want to restrict inside. They can restrict you from having a phone on you inside of the business if they want to, or from
could-
recording.
They could trespass you after you said what you said, right?
Absolutely.
The problem with him, though, is he did not become a citizen. He could have become a citizen. He could have taken the steps. He didn't. So when you allow the
He
government,
is in the process of becoming a citizen.
He got
currently
married
holds
in November of last year to his wife that is 8 months pregnant. And through that process, he was becoming nationalized. It is
Correct.
not complete, though. I
But he's
do
not
want to
there
state
yet.
those facts.
and
No,
that's
and
the
I
thing.
understand that. But
you
come
have to.
Skipper. Come on. You know the only reason Khalil Muhammad is because he had the cojones to say the truth about Israel's overreaction to slaughtering innocent civilians in Gaza. That's
The
what.
problem is
Is
when
that
you're
popcorn?
here-
Are you eating popcorn? You can't eat popcorn.
when you're here on a visa or on a green card, you are still not a citizen. They can deport you, and
Sure, they
again
can.
it goes back to the
can.
absolute powers of the president. Where did those laws come from? They come from the power of the president, so they can do that. And he should have waited until he was a citizen, because then he could have said whatever.
Come on.
It's just like,
And I
there
do
were
want to
things
address
I didn't
one thing.
say-
I do want to address one thing that was in the chat. I've been trying to not pay attention to the chat. No offense to the chat. I love you guys, but Sapphire Patriot said hate speech is not free speech. There is no such thing as hate speech. There is no such thing as hate speech. Let's get that out there right now. You cannot hate speech. Speech is speech. And short of actually inciting violence and saying, you go pick up this thing and go do that very harmful, personally, physically harmful thing to that person,
Facts.
you should not be restricted by anything.
It's
Or
has to
yelling
be
fire in a movie theater.
Which, by the way, was actually overturned as well.
Yeah, you can. It has to be a direct threat. Like,
Yeah.
you go get him. Immediate and indirect.
Oh. I'm trying not to read the chat. If you come into our country and you respect our laws, I 100% agree with that. But if you expect people to come into our country and respect our laws, then you also have to grant them the right to practice the true law of this land, which is the Constitution of the United States, which includes the Bill of Rights.
Unfortunately, the law doesn't agree with you there. Like, the Chinese Exclusion Act was a real thing, and it's been upheld many, many, many times.
And the Alien Sedition Act was also a law, and it got overturned because the Sedition Act was deemed unconstitutional in the end. The Congress went in and repealed that. They said,
I agree with you. Sedition is not like, sedition is free speech. I agree with you on that.
So that's my issue being that the only reason that
when I was in the military, there were things I didn't talk about because I was beholden to the government. I waited until I was out. This guy should have waited until he was no longer on a green card status.
And once again, if he went out and said Donald Trump was the best thing since sliced white bread and Israel should kill all those stupid Palestinians, Donald Trump would not be deporting him. He wouldn't be going back 5 years to look for one little tiny thing. He got deported because he said something that the great white savior Donald Trump didn't like. That's all it came down to, because he broke no actual laws in the process of protesting. And that gets me back to the original point, is that Donald Trump has criminalized protest. He never defined what an illegal protest is. Yes, he has. He's never defined what an illegal protest is. That means he's given himself the power to determine what is or is not an illegal protest. And if you say, come on.
I think you're being ridiculous.
No, if you say illegal protest and you don't define it, then you're leaving it open-ended on purpose. And if you define it as if you burn down a building, then that's not a protest. That's a criminal act. It's destruction of property. That's criminal, and it should be dealt with criminally. But you do not get to say illegal protest, because there is no such thing as an illegal
standing in a public space, not allowing people to go into another public space, that is criminal as well. And that happened in those protests.
If you are physically barring someone, that is no longer a protest. That is a criminal
act. Happened in Colombia.
Not all of Colombia. In fact, there are people on the ground who will testify that all they needed to do was walk around to the back of the building and they got in.
But that's, again, just because there might have been another way in, doesn't mean, like, if you're protesting, you don't have the right to stop me from going into a building. You can't get arm in arm and say, no one crosses this line. That's illegal.
What about the veteran army who occupied the DC Mall? Was that illegal?
To my knowledge, they didn't stop anybody from going into Congress or any government buildings.
Was that deemed illegal?
Oh, it was deemed illegal. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And what happened to a lot of them?
There were 14 killed?
By who?
MacArthur.
Mm-hmm. Military.
Mm-hmm.
The United States military was turned on protesters. So that's because the government deemed that an illegal protest. They deemed it an illegal protest, a complete violation of the right to assemble, a complete violation of the right to protest and seek a redress of grievances.
So that was also when the whole you can't yell fire in a movie theater. That's when that was still the law of the land. Since 1969, that has been changed.
But what good is a protest if it doesn't make people uncomfortable?
Well, you can make people uncomfortable, but you cannot bar someone from a public building.
Once again, if you are physically putting hands on somebody to stop them from entering, then you have assaulted them, and that is no longer a protest.
I agree, but I'm saying
me blocking a sidewalk is not illegal.
I'm just saying that did happen in Colombia. Now, was Khalil Mohammed involved? That I can't tell you because I don't know any of I can't tell you who was involved where and when.
My point being is that if we're going to define a protest as illegal, then we have to define it according to criminality. And with criminality,
there are illegal protests.
You do think there are illegal protests?
I do think there are such things as illegal protests, yes.
And those would be?
Those would be those that prevent, those that hinder the rights of others.
So are you referring to maybe blocking a freeway?
Yes.
Or impeding customers from buying things from a store or from people to use the people's house to go to their court or go to do normal proceedings?
So what you're saying is, as long as your protest takes place, look, there again, lighting something on fire is not a protest. It's criminal destruction of property.
It's an illegal protest. It's still
not an illegal protest. It's not a protest. It's criminal destruction of property. The minute you move to destruction of property, you're not protesting anymore. You're now causing criminal damage.
After Trump was elected and all the people then went across the highway in LA, the Mexican Americans, I would say that was illegal. And they stopped traffic on the highway.
Should they all be arrested and thrown in prison?
I mean, they should be arrested and at least fined. There should be some
So
type
as long
of,
as your protest takes place in a government approved way in a government approved area, then you can protest.
no, I'm saying
TC, real quick. If a protest does block a highway, set things on fire, who do you
Take the
feel
fire
they?
part of it out because I've
Okay,
already
let's just
addressed
say
that.
so that we already talked about that being assault, but let's say they block a highway. Let's
Mhm.
just do something as mundane as that, or irritating in some people's minds. But who do you hold accountable
Who do I hold accountable for what? The
for
blocking?
the blocking of the protests? Now, let's say this thing was organized by Mr. Coop because he believes that
He would do that to protect
you
big
know
feet.
he's going to protect Mr. Bigfoot out there, Big Feet. But let's say he organized it, he blocked a highway, but he was not present there. So the protests he organized, his
Blocks.
people were
Okay,
all there, blocks
okay.
it, but he was not physically there. Who do you think should be held accountable?
Well, if you're going to go by the letter of the law, you only hold accountable the person who's actually doing it. But then you can probably also charge him for inciting that. If you're going to go that direction. I personally believe that a protest is not effective if it's restricted by the government. And there again, I'm not talking about violence or destruction, but a protest cannot be effective if it's not causing discomfort. And sometimes the only way to cause discomfort is to get people to recognize where you are and making their lives uncomfortable. And the marches during the civil rights era blocked bridges, they blocked highways. And we watched local governments funded and backed up by the state, the federal state, use excessive amounts of violence on people marching for civil rights. And they went anyway, knowing they were going to be arrested, knowing they were going to have dogs turned on them, knowing they were going to have water cannons used on them, knowing that they were going to use tear gas on them. And they went anyway. And sometimes as a protester, you have to be willing to make other people uncomfortable. And that means suffering some uncomfortable situations yourself. Ultimately, they ended up winning.
Here's the problem with this situation of Khalil Mohammed and a lot of these others. Where Trump made a mistake is it's never a good policy to make an example of somebody. And I used to teach
you
this
martyr
as a
people, yeah.
military. Yeah, as a military officer, I used to, like, if you're making an example of someone, what you're saying is our system doesn't work, so we're gonna take these actions. Now, let's deal with the same way with the J6 protesters. Again, they were making an example of them. I think everyone who went into in the congressional buildings on January 6th absolutely should have been arrested and fined for vandalism. That's it. Putting people in solitary confinement, no, that's ridiculous.
Agreed.
If you gave everyone a fine, justice has been done. Same thing as whenever they stop a highway. You arrest everybody, you fine them, there you go. The system worked. That's how I would have handled all of the people in the Columbia protest. Because of that, I would have said everybody who is on a visa will now be denied their visa. That's how I would have handled it.
And I think, and you kind of address this, how can J6 be criminal, but what the left did in 2020 wasn't? Who says I didn't? First of all, I don't think the vast majority of what happened on January 6th was illegal or criminal. But those people who did do criminal acts on January 6th should be charged accordingly. Same as those who did criminal acts during the summer of love, the George Floyd summer, should all be charged accordingly. Simply assembling, if I can get together, and we during 2020, we got I took part in a lot of protests that oftentimes were marches that ended up blocking traffic so we could get to and from the state capitol and to the governor's mansion. And we even called ahead of time and said, hey, look, just so you know, local law enforcement, Minnesota Security, State Patrol Security Detail, and St. Paul Police Department, we're going to be marching. There's going to be 5,000 to 6,000 of us. And that means there are going to be times where we end up having to cross the street, just so you're aware. And it was uncomfortable for people at times as they had to wait through 5,000 or 6,000 people marching from the state capitol to the governor's mansion and back. But you do not send a message if you allow yourself to be restricted by a government mandate, by some law that says you can only assemble here and you can only assemble here for this long and you cannot do this and you cannot do that. Then the right for a redress of grievance and the natural right to assemble and seek a redress of grievances has now been limited by the reality that the state can just deem that what you're doing is wrong and we're going to shut you down because of it. Right? And once again, I want a definition of what makes an actual protest illegal. Actually illegal. Because the minute you're harming people or property, it's no longer a protest and it becomes a violent act, and you should be dealt with accordingly, the same way as if someone just walked up into your yard and punched you in the face.
I take it a step further, though. I think that if you are, again, I will go to your rights. My rights end where your rights begin. I don't have the right to deny you your rights, and access to government facilities is one of those rights.
You don't have a natural right to access to government facilities.
If I have a right to redress my grievances with my government, a lot of times that's going to be me going into a government building.
Oh, come on, let's not paint the Columbia protest, which by the way is a private campus. Let's not paint the Columbia protest as if these people were restricted from entering a government building for
public buildings.
But they were not restricted from going to seeking a redress.
Well, I'm not saying in that case.
Okay. Right. So, I mean, you threw Columbia out there, and like, if we're gonna compare apples to apples, then let's look at what the physicality of the location is. And if your protest is hindering another person's protest, you're probably not going to have to worry about the illegality of the protest, because pretty soon you're probably all going to get out your guillotines and start taking each other's heads, a la French Revolution style. So, Skipper's sending me private messages. No, Skipper, I will not take my clothes off and show you my feet.
What are you talking about? You already sent feet pics in the private. Here, let me pull this up.
Oh, I can smell that from here.
No holy socks today. I only like holy socks.
No holy socks unless it's. Wait, it is Sunday. I did want to address, Skipper. You did bring up one thing the other day. I think we all agree that there is no such thing as hate speech. Correct, Skipper?
I think hate speech is actually protected speech. I think there is hate speech, but it's protected.
Well, but when I say there is no such thing as hate speech, sure. If you acknowledge that hate speech exists, then that means then government can tell you can't say it.
I think calls to violence are absolutely illegal. That's
right.
Pretty much it.
I agree with that. Okay. What she call it truth? Like, Skipper and I have these conversations like this all the time. Like, far more. This is why we're actually having this conversation. You brought up one thing, and I want to address this because I think it's foundational to some of our understanding. You brought up Yemen in the lead up to this in our private messages back and forth. So I'm not exposing. I know Skipper likes to talk about private messages when he's talking about what the hell stuff. But as we were talking about this, you brought up Yemen and the United States bombing of Yemen. And I believe that we probably agree that the United States Navy has a right to defend her ships.
Yes.
And has a right to defend U.S. flagged or flagged ships of any country, for that matter, from Houthi attacks. Agreed?
Agreed.
All right.
The moderator agrees.
Well, you just ruined it.
I think I know where you're going with this. How far are these bombings going to go?
But does the president have unilateral power to bomb sovereign soil?
Like, when you say sovereign soil, like another country's
Yeah,
sovereign.
Yemen. Does the president have unilateral power without a declaration of war to bomb another country?
I mean, if we're going by precedent, yes.
No,
Now,
not precedents, because precedents has been wrong since the end of World War II.
but I go back to, this is why things need to be challenged in the court.
Can the courts decide what is and is not a justifiable action when it comes to making war? Does that fall under the purview of the courts?
I think the court can say that the legality or illegality can only be decided by the actions of Congress.
And so, since the United States, since the end of World War II, has continuously been in a state of perpetual war, bombing thousands of pieces of property in sovereign countries across the world, without Congress doing its job of declaring an actual war, we cannot justify the president ordering the bombing of a country like Yemen to send them a message outside of telling the ships they can defend themselves against direct attack. Correct? According to the Constitution and the War Powers Act.
Well, I mean, there's other acts that do come into play. I mean, the president can do things for, what is it, 100 days or 120 days unilaterally without any congressional.
Right. But that clock resets at 120 days, resets anytime the president says, okay, conflict's over. Now tough shit, it's Tuesday. Well, I know just Sunday I said it was over, but now it's a new thing.
This is goes back to the problem of Supreme Court doesn't want to get involved, because they, previous times, whenever this has been challenged, well, we don't want to be the ones to tell the president what to do. Okay, well, I thought you guys were supposed to determine what's legal and illegal.
The president doesn't have to obey the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court does not have to obey the president. And the legislature doesn't have to. Right. But this is what, when you brought up Yemen, I agree that, and the precedence is there. If we look, so like the Creek Nation declared war on the young American Republic. People aren't aware of this. The Creek Nation itself, the natives, declared war on the young burgeoning American Republic. And the president at the time, forgive my history brain is frozen at the moment. The president at the time, when he was getting, Skipper, stop asking me. All right, here. No, okay, never mind. When his military commanders were asking for permission to pursue the Creek and take them out in their villages and in their controlled lands, the president said, you will only defend our land. You will not pursue them. You will only respond in defense until we get a declared war from Congress. And Congress eventually did declare that war, which freed up the military to go after them. So if we want to take out the Houthi threat, Congress needs to do its job and declare war on Yemen, which we should have done if we wanted to fight in Afghanistan or Iraq at any point, or
I agree,
Syria or anywhere. But we're never going to get that because Congress is terrified of actually declaring war, which makes the Defend the Guard legislation. You ready for this? Skipper knows I'm so good at this, which makes every single one of you out there, it's imperative that you go out, find your representatives in the state that you live in, look up the military initiative or the veteran initiative from bringourtroopshome.us and defendtheguard.us, and find out who in your state is backing the Defend the Guard legislation. Dan McKnight's a dear friend of mine, and I guarantee you, if you want him to come speak to your people, he or Diego or Hunter will help you find a way to make that happen. Look, I brought it home.
And with that, I think we have to wrap this up because we've been going at this for 2 hours, and Chris has got things he's got to do.
I do too,
Chris,
but my day got shot anyway. So,
Chris, let everyone know where they can find you.
Hey, TC and Skipper, thank you for allowing me to be on here, and everybody.
I'm sorry you had to do this.
Oh no, it's an honor, and
455 subscribers.
Yeah, so you can find me Mildevet veteran podcast, and we're on YouTube and pretty much every single social media. And if you like what you see, I did it, and if you don't like what you see, I don't care. So
bring him on more often. I like that.
But it's really awesome to be able to hang out with you guys, and thank you so much, Skipper, for shooting me a quick message a couple hours before this and saying, "Hey, you want to come on and moderate?"
I love that you said thank you for letting me come on. Like you just are glutton for see. Like this would have been an illegal protest because we punished you. We did harm to you. So, Skipper, I think that was fun. That wasn't even.
People got a lot out of it.
Oh,
I think it'll get views after we're live. So I think it's a good one.
I'm sure it will.
Yeah,
I just put both of your links in the chat, so everyone please go there. And
wait a minute. His subscriber count went up. Let's see what happened to mine before we leave.
What went up? There we go.
Yeah, mine went down.
Yours just went up one. Hey, was that libtarb comment that you made? The libtarb.
As you were coming in, yeah. So, well, thank you, Skipper. We'll have to do this again the next time you say something that's wrong.
I think it's fun. I think people do enjoy it, and yeah.
Next time we have to debate Lincoln and the Civil War.
And my goodness,
we can do that. We can do that.
Hey, you give me some notes, and I'll be a little bit better at debating. Or
Chris, Chris, email me. Seriously, write my email down real quick. Look at this official military notebook.
What is it?
MBRR podcast at yahoo.com.
Did y'all get that?
Go ahead and send it there. I don't like
send them feet pics.
Do not send me feet pics.
That's exactly what I'm going to do. I got to go so I can go take some feet pics and send them to you. All right.
Yeah. Shoot me an email, Chris. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah. Thank you guys. All right.
Thank you. And everyone in the chat, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your questions, all your comments. Make sure you go and subscribe to everybody who was on here today. Yeah, thank you.
And
again.
even thank you to the person who said, I think TC is stupid.
You got one stupid and one he's the most handsome on the podcast. So I'd say it's a wash.
I just want to know.
Oh, for the record, I do have a full head of hair. So
I just don't like dealing with it. Like
full head. It's all natural. No plugs.
I keep it short on purpose because I just get tired of looking like a chia pet. So, but I just want to know what I said that made them think I'm stupid. That's all. But, anyway, Skipper, get us out of here. Play our music or something.
My goodness.
Thank you everyone for joining us. Also, make sure you give. We're raising money for the Grangers. Brett is a military veteran. So make sure you go to that Give, Send, Go. We do have stuff on that out there. And as always, thank you for being worth serving.